Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, What's New in HiveMQ 4.4. We will kick off in a minute, but before we start, I want to give you a quick introduction. So first of all participants are muted. However, you can ask questions during the webinar by clicking in the Q&A box in your control panel. There will be around 15 minutes Q&A after the presentation in which Maggie will try to answer your questions. If we can't answer them all because there are too many, they will be answered on the HiveMQ community forum. The link to the community forum will be shared with you afterwards. Additionally, we will also start a quick feedback poll during the Q&A session, and we would be very, very pleased if you could give feedback. And I also want to let you know that this session will be recorded and shared with you afterwards. This is everything you need to know right now. And now I am happy to present today's speaker, Maggie Erber, who is product manager at HiveMQ. She's a conference speaker, author, and expert for cloud-native technologies like Apache KAFKA and also for IoT. So welcome, Maggie.
Thank you very much. And also a welcome from my side. As Verena already told you, I'd like to share the new features of our newest release, HiveMQ 4.4, with you. But before we start, I'd also like to give you a short overview where we're coming from and what are some typical technical IoT challenges that you face in an IoT project. Okay. So as we speak right now, can you imagine that millions of things are newly connected to the internet? It is really awesome what enterprises are doing here in the Internet of Things and connecting millions of things every second. And if you have a look at the numbers, you see that while the number of people on the internet here is relatively constant, around about 4 to 5 billion people, devices are growing really fast. So you see here in 2025, nearly 75 billion devices are on the internet that are connected. So that is the forecast here. And this is really a huge number. And with this huge number, we have a few challenges to solve here. And to start here with one sentence, web technology that we use to connect us, for example, HTTP. So web technology that is used for the Internet of Humans is not suitable for the Internet of Things. And to dive a little bit deeper into that, it comes to those 3 technical IoT challenges. First of all, scalability. So we had in the introduction that millions and billions of devices are connected in the Internet of Things. So that is really a big number. And with common enterprise IT infrastructure, this is really not easy. In fact, it's a hard problem to connect millions of devices there, concurrently connect millions of devices there. And also the data that these clients are, or that these devices are creating, that is also not that easy to bring into existing enterprise systems, like, for example, databases. So you see, the enterprise IT infrastructure here is not really suitable for IoT. But you need something that can handle the massive scalability that is required for millions of devices. The other technical IoT challenge that we face here is instant data delivery. So if you think about your daily, about your day, I would bet most of you are using WhatsApp or any other instant messaging system. And so we are completely used to have data available instant. So all of our end customers are also used to have data available instantly. So that is also true for IoT systems, and especially for critical systems. That is even more important. So real-time communication around the globe is something that we also have to solve with IoT software here. And combined with the scalability here, that is really a huge problem. And yeah, the third challenge that we face here are unreliable networks. So, you know, a reliable connection is especially needed for business critical systems. And if you think about the internet, you know that reliability is not everywhere possible. And yeah, that is also a problem here for IoT applications. So a flaky connection can be especially flaky for moving devices like cars. So that is also something that we have to think about if we want to create an IoT application here. So that basically means those three challenges in combination are a huge technical challenge for us in combination. And that also means we need open standards that are designed for the Internet of Things and not for the Internet of Humans. Oh, sorry. And such a technology is MQTT. MQTT was introduced in 1999 by Andy Sternford-Clark and Arlen Nipper, and became an official standard at the OASIS in 2014. And yeah, what is MQTT? It is an IoT messaging protocol that is really designed for the Internet of Things, and especially made for unreliable networks. So it's made for extreme scale and instant data exchange. It's based on a publish subscribe architecture. And yeah, what the cool thing about MQTT is that all the complexity about the implementation is on the server side and not on the device side. Especially if you think about devices that are at end customers, that are physical devices where you do not have access to them if they are out there in the world, then this is really important to have here. And yes, it is really made for machines and constrained devices because low computing power and low memory is something typical for IoT devices, and MQTT is really made for those devices. And last but not least, of course, it is designed for reliable communication over unreliable channels. Okay, so where do we see MQTT use cases? To say it in one word, everywhere. MQTT is used, for example, in the connected car. So if you think about maybe also your car, then maybe you're already using a car that uses MQTT. Then we also see it in the industry, in logistics, telecommunication, and also in the messaging. So you see MQTT is kind of everywhere and accompanies us all the day. So to say it in general, MQTT is useful if you have push communication over unreliable networks, if you use constrained devices with low computing power and low memory. And that is a typical use cases where you could and should use MQTT. Okay, so but to say that MQTT is just a protocol. And yeah, users are facing some challenges if they want to put MQTT into production. For example, if they want to scale from one device to millions of devices, or that devices they have connected to their MQTT solution lose their session data on reconnect. Also, debugging is like finding the needle in the haystack. It's not that easy often, and existing backend systems or existing infrastructure software often uses different APIs, and we have to make those backend systems fit for MQTT. And yeah, that is where HiveMQ comes into place, because HiveMQ solves all your problems here in connecting devices with via MQTT. So what is HiveMQ? HiveMQ itself is an MQTT broker, or it's more than an MQTT broker. It's a connectivity and messaging platform that is based on the standard IoT protocol, which is MQTT. So to say that, HiveMQ itself is completely compatible to all the MQTT versions. So namely version 3.1, 3.1.1, and 5. And yeah, it scales to more than 10 million always-on devices. So HiveMQ here is really a reliable solution where you can set into production on any IoT use case. So a few facts about HiveMQ itself. So HiveMQ is a unique IoT or MQTT program. So because it solves the problem of scalability. So massive amounts of clients are no problem for HiveMQ at all. So you see more than 10 million devices is absolutely no problem for HiveMQ. If you want to read more on this, we also have a benchmark paper here on the website that gives you more information, what happened here and how you can solve your scalability challenge with HiveMQ. Yes, HiveMQ itself uses an elastic cluster under the hood, which allows the system to scale up and also down if you need to, depending on your device traffic. So that means if you start with a small use case, then you need a small instance of HiveMQ, and you can connect multiple nodes here or add node by node as your use case is growing and growing and you need more compute power here. And the other cool thing about HiveMQ is if there's something happening in the network, like for example, the cluster splits for a short period of time, then HiveMQ has this auto heal functionality inside that heals your cluster after this. So you always have here a stable connection for your clients and a reliable solution. One of the other unique things that HiveMQ has is the pretty mighty integration system or extension framework, how we call it, that enables you to integrate HiveMQ with nearly every other enterprise system. So you could extend HiveMQ with your own extensions, or call it plugins or add-ons, like you wish. We call it extensions, where you can add your own infrastructure software, your own backend systems, or also integrate with common enterprise software, like, for example, Apache Kafka, etc. And last but not least, for us, it is important that you have the complete observability of your system, that you could trace what's going on the system, and that you have a reliable partner here that helps you to bring your IoT use case into production. And therefore, we have a lot of features that solve exactly this use case. So HiveMQ is helping you and simplifying IoT. So it's really made for multi-cloud, so it runs everywhere, be it on-premise or on any cloud vendor. We also support Docker or Kubernetes. If you have a failure case here, you do not have to interact manually with HiveMQ. And of course, it scales to your needs. But not only it scales, the cool thing about our clustering technology is that it is a cluster under the hood, but it is addressable like a single system. So for all your devices, you just have one HiveMQ outside, and under the hood, the load is distributed here. And to get you started quickly, I mentioned the extension system. We also provide off-the-shelf extensions here for the most common use cases that, get you started right away. Okay, so to have everything that I have explained in one picture that explains everything is this picture here. The HiveMQ platform here is in the middle, which connects the MQTT clients over the unreliable network via MQTT, and can also integrate with your enterprise systems with our really mighty extension framework. And of course, it runs everywhere, like I already said. Okay, so with that, HiveMQ is growing and growing and growing, and we added a lot of new products and tools to our HiveMQ product portfolio. So this is just an overview of it. You see here the multiple versions of it, and also the enterprise extensions, which are here out of the box that you can use to integrate, for example, with Apache Kafka, or also solve client authentication or authorization with the enterprise security extension. Okay, so then I would say let's start with HiveMQ 4.4. That is our newest release of HiveMQ. It's available since the 11th of August. So 1 week and 1 day, I think. Yes. And I'd say we start with what is the theme of this release? Okay, so for us at HiveMQ, it is really important to be in a tight collaboration with our customers, to be always in discussions what is important to our customers and what are the problems they're facing right now and where do they need new things. So HiveMQ 4.4 is the result of our customers' feedback. So of all the customer meetings we had here, which basically is built for you. And to divide that release into 3 themes, we could say, okay, first of all, we want to offer an easier automation of HiveMQ operations. Then we wanted to add here finer grained observability, so that you have, you already have really deep insights into the system, but we found there are some spots where you could have finer grained observability, and we added that one to the system. And of course, we also enlarged the extension SDKs so that you could integrate with other systems easier and deeper. So the highlights of this release, are a REST API, a feature that is called the client event history, Kubernetes operator, additional MQTT topics, and a new enterprise extension, which is called the Enterprise Bridge extension. So then let's dive deeper into all the features. Okay, we're starting with the REST API. So if you think about your HiveMQ operations team, then you know that HiveMQ is a system that is pretty easy to operate. And you did it usually manually. And also the control center, diagnostics, and observability features are usually used manually. So, but there are some tasks that you may do regularly, like for example, starting a trace recording or creating a backup. And all those things that you do on a regular basis can now be automated. Automated using our new REST API. And especially the features for backup and restore, the client's overview and details, and the trace recordings are here supported with our REST API. And to get you started quickly and for your convenience, we also added a code generator here that creates API clients and models out of the box. And yeah, helps you to get started quickly using this REST API. So the next feature is the client event history. And that is a really cool feature because it gives you a deep insight into your client's behavior. So, but let's start with the IoT system here. So if you think about your IoT application, then you know you have connected many MQTT clients, maybe millions of MQTT clients. Yeah, so it depends on your use case, but imagine you have connected here millions of MQTT clients that produce massive amount of data. And you know, you have observability of the whole cluster already available in the HiveMQ Control Center. So you see what is going on in the cluster, which clients are connected, what happens, etc. You could also start trace recordings if you know, okay, I have a critical new use case and want to see, is everything working fine? Then I start the trace recordings and see exactly what is going on here, which client is connecting, which client is sending, which publish, etc. And you also have the event log that basically stores all the events in a log file. But we saw here that a per client observability would also be very helpful. And that is why we introduced the client event history. The client event history is a historical view of client events of the past 7 days. So the 7 days are configurable, and 7 is the default here. But you see in the client events, when did the client connect, when did it disconnect, when was it affected by the overload protection, etc. And you do not only see this in the control center, you also have access to the client events, for example, to send it into your data analytics tool via our extension SDK. So to show you this, here's a screenshot that shows the client event history in the HiveMQ Control Center, which is basically, here the list of events that happened to this client in this timestamp or in this time frame, and the list here is sortable and filterable for events and details. And you also have access to all the events via the enterprise extension SDK that basically gives you all this information, and you can, yeah, for example, print it out like here, or what would be more valuable if you bring it into your data analytics tool. The next feature is the Kubernetes operator. And you know, Kubernetes is the de facto managed cloud orchestration tool. And we see a lot of customers are starting to bring their HiveMQ deployment to Kubernetes-based orchestration here. And that is the reason why we decided to offer a HiveMQ Kubernetes operator, which is a set of best practices for deploying and managing on HiveMQ, and also the HiveMQ extensions on any Kubernetes-based system. So yeah, that is the HiveMQ Kubernetes operator, and we released it with a predefined Helm chart to get you started quickly here. That Helm chart has useful defaults inside, but can also be adapted, of course. It allows you to manage HiveMQ extensions as well, and it integrates easily with your Prometheus operator. So it's just one configuration flag that you have to enable, and all the HiveMQ metrics are sent to Prometheus. And we also provide a Grafana dashboard here that helps you, yeah, to see what's going on your system very quickly. And yeah, of course, the Kubernetes operator also supports our zero downtime upgrades. So we call them also rolling upgrades from one version to another version. That is easily doable with HiveMQ Kubernetes operator. And in combination with Kubernetes, the disaster recovery is also pretty mighty here. Okay, and to show you, it's really pretty easy to get started with the Kubernetes operator using Helm. Basically, these are the commands that you need. Of course, you need an already running Kubernetes cluster here, but then you have a running HiveMQ cluster on Kubernetes. That's pretty easy. Okay. Coming to the next feature, and yes, it is not message expiry because that is something that is already in MQTT. But to explain this feature, I need to explain a little bit of this, and I'm not quite sure. So where are you and how much of MQTT you know? That is the reason why I explain a little bit about message expiry first. Okay, so you know, messages in your system can lose relevance with time. So that means if you drive a car and you're in the city and yeah, you see, okay, there's a way you can't drive through, then if you get this message 2 hours later, that is, yeah, not important anymore. Or 2 days later, then it's totally not important. So it is, so messages can lose their relevance with time. And that is the reason why MQTT has a feature that's called message expiry, where you can set an interval for publish message to say, okay, it's only valid for the next hour. And that is also the time that defines how long HiveMQ or any MQTT broker should store the message for a matching subscriber. And yeah, if the client is not connected within that interval, then the message expires and the client won't get the message. So that ensures that the broker resources for clients that are offline are used properly. And clients do not have to deal with large numbers of irrelevant messages when they reconnect. Yeah, so that also is kind of an automated housekeeping mechanism and can be used for resource management on the MQTT broker. And the thing here is if a message expires on the system, then I think you're really interested why this happened and which message was expired and for which client. And that is the reason why we introduced new MQTT topics that are special MQTT topics in a reserved namespace. So that means you can subscribe to them to get all the information, but you can't, your clients can't publish to them. And we introduced here the $expire topic for expired messages, and we did the same for drop messages as well. And those new MQTT topics can be used to send those MQTT messages into your data analytics tool, for example, to do trend analytics or pattern detection here. So we're using the standard MQTT mechanisms here that keeps all the original information of the message and adds additional information like the client for which the message was expired for, and also a reason code, for example, for the drop messages here. So that means these new MQTT topics are completely compliant with the MQTT 5 standard. And you can also integrate those topics into your MQTT security mechanisms, or use your KAFKA extension, for example, to bring them into your data analytics tool or do advanced logging here in KAFKA. Then next feature is our enterprise bridge extension. And this is something if you have multiple deployments, especially deployments in different and very restricted areas, like for example here in factories that are in demilitarized zones, and all those MQTT devices are only allowed to connect to a local HiveMQ cluster, but you also want to have the data at your central data center. Then the HiveMQ bridge extension helps you to create bridges between those HiveMQ clusters. So those clusters here at the factories and the cluster here at the central data center. Yeah, the enterprise bridge extension is a scalable, secure, and reliable way to create a bidirectional communication bridge between HiveMQ and any other MQTT program. And with the flexible topic mapping using standard topic filters, including the wildcards, and with the feature of excluding also topics from a topic filter, you are pretty flexible which topics you want to subscribe to at the factories, for example, and to which topics you want to send the data to. Okay. Speaking of the enterprise extensions, we also added a new feature to our enterprise extension for KAFKA, which is the Customization API. And for those who already know the KAFKA extension, you know that you have two ways here. So the KAFKA extension is the most scalable and best way for bidirectional integration of MQTT messages with KAFKA. And that means you have the way MQTT to KAFKA to bring MQTT messages from your HiveMQ cluster to your KAFKA cluster, and also the way back. So reading messages from your KAFKA cluster, transforming them into MQTT messages and distributing them via your HiveMQ cluster. And you know, the KAFKA to MQTT way has always been a little bit more flexible than the MQTT to KAFKA way. And with our customization API, we now change that. So it is a new way to create sophisticated and customized handling of message transformations here. And basically, it's a piece of code that you add to the Kafka extension, where you decide how to transform the MQTT message into a Kafka record. So you could do it as simple as it is here in this example, or you could also add additional data from an external system, enrich that MQTT message, and create a completely new Kafka record here. Okay, so we also have additional features for the extension SDK, where we added, a method to get all the retained messages, where you could also have now a publish timestamp at the publish message. So that is the time where the publish arrived at HiveMQ. And you also could set the queue of a client at HiveMQ individually. And then we also added additional views to our control center, and I'll show you that in detail in a second. And we also added the MQTT CLI to this release. Okay, so speaking of control center views, I start with shared subscriptions. And for those who are new to MQTT, if you think about a standard MQTT subscription, then each subscribing client receives a copy of the message. So you see that here in the GIF, the two clients are in the bottom that are, subscribing client using a standard MQTT subscription. Shared subscriptions allow the MQTT clients to share the same subscription on an MQTT program. So the clients of this shared group will receive the messages in an alternating fashion. And that is something that you can use for client-side load balancing. So it's really a popular tool our customers love and use. And by the way, we also had that before it was an official standard in our product. But shared subscriptions are something that is really loved by our customers. And until now, you had the possibility to see the shared subscriptions of a client in the HiveMQ control center. And with HiveMQ 4.4, we added a new view that gives you the possibility to see all the shared subscriptions that are available at the HiveMQ cluster, and also all the clients that are part of the shared subscription. So that is the shared subscription overview, where you see all the shared subscriptions that are available. And if you click on one of the shared subscriptions, then you see the detail view. And you see also here the state or the status of the clients, if they are connected or not currently. And also the client overview here is filterable and sortable, which is pretty nice to find what you're searching for. Okay, then another thing that we added with HiveMQ 4.4 is something for queued messages. And just for those who are new to MQTT, I explain a little bit about message queuing and persistent sessions. So if you think about an MQTT client that connects at your HiveMQ cluster, then it connects, subscribes to the topics that it is interested to, and then it disconnects, or it loses the connection. And if that happens and it reconnects again, it has to subscribe to topics again, unless it has a persistent session. So a persistent session saves all the information about the session at the program. And if a client reconnects, then all this information is available again. And with that, the client also has access to the messages that it has not received in the period it was offline. So we queue messages until a certain limit for the client here. And if the client reconnects again, then it gets all the messages. So, and this message queue that we hold for each offline client is something that you now can set individually. So you can change the message queue via the extension SDK that I said earlier at the extension SDK. And you also see now the message queue and the maximum of the message queue and the current amount of messages in the queue in the client overview table. And it looks like this. So you see here all the clients listed, and here you have a new column that's called queue size, where you can see the current amount of messages in the queue and the maximum amount of messages that HiveMQ stores for this queue. And you see this maximum here is set individually for all those clients, and clients who are using up their queue limit are highlighted in bold here, so that you easily can identify those clients who are using up their limit. So then something for our customers who love to create custom extensions for our HiveMQ and use the session attributes here. So session attributes are key value data that you can add to the session of your MQTT clients. And we added the session attributes to the client detail view to give you the possibility to check if all the session attributes were set correctly. And it looks like this in the client detail view. So you have a list of all the session attributes that are there for the client, and if the value here is too long to be shown in this view, you also see it in an extra view. Okay, last but not least, the client export. Millions of clients that are connected to HiveMQ, and you want to check which clients are connected right now and inspect all those clients. For example, sort them, filter them, search for a specific value there, etc. And the client CSV or Excel export helps you here to export all the clients, including their details, and, for example, expecting them in a tool like Microsoft Excel. To get the information that you're searching for. And you also can automate those export regularly using the MQTT CLI. Okay, so it is pretty easy, just a new command for the MQTT CLI, which is a command line tool, by the way, for those who are not known to the MQTT CLI, and you get the client export. Okay, just a few words about release cadence. So we decided here to release HiveMQ 3 times per year. So that is a new regular release cadence. So you will have feature releases in April, August, and December. And we continue with our monthly maintenance releases for HiveMQ. And as you may have recognized, we now bundle all our products into one release. So that means if you download HiveMQ itself, you get HiveMQ as MQTT broker, of course. But with all our enterprise extensions, they are disabled per default. You can easily enable them. And you also get the MQTT CLI and the HiveMQ Kubernetes operator with each release. Okay, so here's the link for downloading it if you're interested. And I'd also like to share some here. some insights here in yeah, the local HiveMQ that I started a few minutes ago. So that is the client detail view. And as you see here, you have the event history. Oh, no events for this client. Okay, let's have a look into this client. Oh, no events. Okay. So that clients are pretty boring, I see. But they also have shared subscriptions. And you see now that is linked with the shared subscription detail. You can also have a look into the overview here. And yeah, see that this is pretty cool to get forward and backward in the HiveMQ Control Center. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Maggie, for your presentation. I think we can go over to the questions now. And I'm also going to start the poll right now. So if you could take a few seconds to answer them. So let me see. Here is a question by Guraf. He asks, will we be able to know how many messages we have expired without being consumed?
So if I understood that correctly, then you just want to know the number of expired messages and are not interested in the messages or in the content of the messages. And yes, of course, we also have metrics here. So all the new features come with metrics that you can also consume. Yeah, so of course, yes.
Okay. One participant that wants to stay anonymous asks, is there a license for small startups 1,000 to 10,000 devices?
Yes, of course. So there I would say, please contact us. That is something I would hand over. I would love to hand over to our really phenomenal sales team. They can help you here. And yeah, if you reach out to us because you're anonymous, then yeah, then we can get in contact. And the other thing is we also offer a managed solution in the cloud, and that would be a pretty cool number of devices that we can also handle in the small starter package in HiveMQ Cloud. So up to 10,000 devices are there. So if you have a look at hivemq.com/cloud, I think, then you get all the information about HiveMQ Cloud, and that is really made for getting started with MQTT and and HiveMQ.
There is someone asking, does HiveMQ support on-premise solution?
Yes, of course, we support on-premise solution. So if you get a license for HiveMQ on-premise, then you will also get our professional support here that is included into your license. And for more information, I would also hand you over to our really awesome sales team that can answer that question in more detail.
There is one anonymous participant asking, client event history is on professional plan, or is client event?
Yes, of course. All the features that I showed to you are part of the professional edition. So no enterprise edition feature in this release. Everything is available for the professional edition.
Another anonymous participant asks, can we modify Kafka messages by HiveMQ before client consume it?
Mm-hmm. That is a really good question, and I see you. You're interested in the way Kafka to MQTT, and as you may have recognized, for now, the MQTT to Kafka way is available for the customization API, but the other way around is, of course, also something that is planned and will come in the future. So for now, for this version, unfortunately not, but it will come in the future.
Okay. Another anonymous participant says, I saw supported REST APIs in HiveMQ 4.4. Is there any plan to introduce new API to disconnect client? This helps organizations to disconnect the deleted IoT device by just calling an API. Would be very easy.
Oh, thank you for this. That is really an awesome question. Disconnect clients via the REST API. Yeah. So as you see, we started with the REST API in this release, and that is something that we really love to enlarge. And if you have more feature requests or use cases that you want to see that are solved in the REST API, then please feel free to contact me and give me your ideas what you want to do here. And that is also the same here with that. So we really want to enlarge the REST API with more functionality. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. So it's about disconnecting clients. Yeah, that is something that is really helpful, I see. And I'll take that with me. So thank you very much for this one.
There's another question by Nina who asks, can MQTT broker run on small hardware like embedded system on chip?
That is really a good question. Okay, so in regards of HiveMQ, the version that you see here, the Professional and Enterprise Edition, that is something that is not suitable for embedded systems. But we also have a community edition, and I'm not quite sure if that one is released right now, but we also have features that help you here to run that on embedded software or embedded systems. So if you have a use case here, please reach out to us. We're happy to help you here, yeah, get started and solve your specific problem. So I'm really happy to see more and more people who are interested in this use case or in running an MQTT broker on embedded hardware.
There is another question by an anonymous participant who asks, in unreliable network connections, do reconnecting clients need to be re-authenticated again?
Okay. Yeah, thank you for this question. That is something that that really relies on, or that completely relies on your use case, how you implement your system or how you decide your system should work. So of course you also can use HiveMQ without any authentication. That works also, but it's not recommended to say that. If you want to have them reconnected, if you want to have them re-authenticated, then yes, but if not, then no. So it really relies on your use case. If you have something that you want to clarify here in more detail, then we're really happy to help you here. So please reach out to us.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question. No. There is one question. Can we find how messages get lost due to quality of service 0 cache memory is full but not consume in specified duration?
Okay, thank you for this question. I think I have to read it again.
No
worries. Okay, so it's about messages that get lost due to QoS. Okay, it's about QoS0 messages. And if the queue of QoS0 is not full, but not consumed in specified duration. Okay, so yes, of course, HiveMQ itself in the control center has also a page that is called Advanced Analytics. In Advanced Analytics, you see all the drop messages. So you see, you see all the clients that have, for those who were messages dropped. And that gives you a pretty good overview of how many messages were dropped due to this QoS0 memory.
Okay, and I think so for so there are currently 4 questions that are unanswered, but as I said in the introduction, we will answer them on our community forum, and I pasted the link in the chat. So you can find the answers there in a few days. So that's it. Thank you very much for participating today. We hope you liked the session. Thanks, Maggie, for your presentation and for giving our participants an overview of the new HiveMQ 4.4 feature release. We will upload the webinar on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it again. You can subscribe to our newsletter to stay updated on all news about MQTT and HiveMQ. And like I said, the question will be answered on the community forum. I hope you like it, and see you next time.